Titam Pavanabhyo,
Om
Vaishnavabhyo
Nitya
Namaha. Om Gyan Tiramandasya, Gyanjana Salakya, Chakshumilitam Yena, Tashmai Shiguru Namaha.
Well, there's a matter about Germany.
Inada Pisa Nichana, Tarora Pisa Hishtuna, Namani Namana Dena, Kirtaniya Sadahani, Anya Blasta Sunyam, Yan Kamadyana Vritam, Anukalenya Krishna Shiranam, Bhakti Uttama. Tapte nukampam susamik shamano, bunjana vatma kritam vipakam, hitvak vapubi vidam namaste, jivita yomukti padet sadai bak, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Anya Blasta Sunyam, Gyan Kamadena Vritam, Anukalenya Krishna Shiranam, Bhakti Uttama, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasdi, Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna, my dear God brothers, God sisters, God sons, daughters, God mothers, God fathers, everybody, welcome on Monday evening or wherever you are. Maybe it's earlier or later. This is one of our 2 classes per week of Mercy, Lila, Mercy, Grace, and Lila, taking us through to Kartik 2021, Gurudev's 100th Kartik. The parikrams are the heart of our Gurudev. Or our Gurudevs, because some of you will have different gurus, but all gurus and our whole parampara, the kartiks, the parikrams are very sacred to our mission. And we want to be full of greed and desire for bhakti, for spiritual growth, as we march towards this beautiful, great event later in 2021. And we're very fortunate. Today is our Lila day. One day a week we are discussing the appearance and disappearance of various acharyas of that week. And one day we talk about the Lila. We're talking about Navadvipa Lila until we get to the Navadvipa Parikram, and then we'll talk about Kartik Lila. And we're very, very fortunate to have our beloved Sripada Bhaktivedanta Bhagavat Maharaj, all the way from Texas, looking very ebullient and jolly this evening, or this afternoon in his time. Thank you, Maharaj, for coming to speak to us. The central topic is the discussions between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the chant Kazi, but I'm sure as Maharaj is wont to do, he will, I'm sure, bring different perspectives and possibly go into different Lila. In fact, I've got no idea what he's going to do, which is part of the fun. So everybody hold on to your seatbelts. It's Bhagavat Maharaj. Can't wait to hear his Hari Katha. Thank you, Maharaj, for coming. Hari Krishna. Dandavat Pranams.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Dandavat pranams. Dandavat pranams to my Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupada Satara Sata Sisi Mad Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to my Diksha and Sannyas Guru Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupada Satara Sata Sisi Mad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Swami. My humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are present here today, my Dandavata. So today we're talking about Lord Chaitanya. And we're talking about Lord Chaitanya's Lila with the Chand Kazi. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to this world primarily for understanding the 3 particular aspects of Radharani's love for him. He wants to understand what her love is for him, what is the sweetness that she alone can see in him, and what is the ecstasy that she experiences in her loving relationships with him. And he also comes to establish Raganuga Bhakti, because previously, when he appeared in his position as Krishna, when he appeared as Krishna in Vrindavan with his associates, he displayed what Raganuga Bhakti was, with all the devotees, but a lot of people did not understand it, and they continued to perform Vaidhi Bhakti. And in order to get across the actual spontaneous loving devotional service, he decides to come as a devotee of himself and show people by his own actions what is devotional service in spontaneous love and devotion, in spontaneous mood. So those are the primary reasons. The secondary reason is to answer the calls of Advaita Acharya, who worshipped the Shalagram Shila with Tulsi and water and shouted so loudly that he actually shook the throne of Narayan in Vaikuntha, to call him to come and appear in this world and to develop Krishna consciousness here in to bring Krishna consciousness here to the material world, because of the ever progressive demoralization that was going on in society due to the development of Kali Yuga. So, in order to fulfill the wish of Advaita Acharya, he appeared, and also he appeared because it was time for the Yuga avatar to appear. And so he appeared to fulfill the mission of the Yuga avatar, which is to spread the chanting of the holy names. But this was something special, something very, very special, that he was going to spread not just the chanting of the holy names in order to go to Vaikuntha or even to Goloka, but in order to give Unot Ujvalarasa Svabhakti Sriyam, Manjari Bhav. So therefore, this gift of the Hari Nam Sankirtan that he was giving was Prem Nam Sankirtan, in which he was giving the highest prem for Radha and Krishna through the Harinam Sankirtan movement. And therefore, very, very potent, very, very powerful. So this particular Lila about the Chand Kazi has to do with the Chand Kazi trying to inhibit or stop Mahaprabhu's mission, Krishna's mission as Mahaprabhu, in spreading the chanting of the holy name in order to peel back the influence of Kali Yuga. So very, very significant, very, very important, and very, very powerful. So what happens is Mahaprabhu begins at the age of 17 to be the congregational chanting of Krishna's names in the Sankirtan movement. He begins them in Navadvipa. Now, this is significant because at the time in Navadvipa, the Pathan Muslims were in charge of the area, and we had both the Hussain Shah, who Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami worked for, and underneath Hussain Shah, who was the governor of all of Bengal, we had the Chand Kazi, who was the magistrate for the Navadvipa, which was considered the crown jewel of Bengal. It was the most intellectual area in all of Bengal, with the greatest teachers, educators, pandits, etc. Which is why at some point the Kashmiri Pandit came to challenge the Navadvipa scholars to a debate in order to defeat them and win praise as a greater scholar than anybody else. So it was considered a very powerful place. There was a lot of money, wealth, knowledge, education, etc. in this area. And the Kazi's job was to levy taxes on the land, keep law and order, punish criminals, etc. This was the job of the Chand Kazi. Now, the Chand Kazi in Krishna Lila, and this is an important point about Navadvipa that we have to understand, that Navadvipa, if we look in Brahma Samhita, we see that the development of Goloka Vrindavan is based on the Gayatri mantra, particularly the Gopal mantra, which is 18 syllables in 6 divisions. So it's a hexagonal figure. And the development of the lotus petals around the hexagonal figure are considered Navadvipa Dham. So the hexagonal figure is considered Radha Krishna conjugal and Vrindavan Dham. And the lotus leaves around the hexagonal figure are considered Navadvipa Dham. So those two are completely the same in mood. Gurudev emphasized this again and again, that Navadvipa Dham has the same sweetness pastimes, the same Madhurya as Vrindavan Dham. And so therefore, all of this activity and pastimes in Navadvipa Dham have these same sweetness moods. And all the inhabitants of Vrindavan take birth in different capacities within Navadvipa Dham in order to carry on those lilas. And of course, that also includes Mathura. And so what we see is that Hussein Shah is Jarasandha, and that the Chand Kazi is actually Kamsa, who is Krishna's maternal uncle in the Vrindavan Lila. And so we have Lord Caitanya starting the Sankirtan movement, and it is opposed by none other than Kamsa himself in the form of the Chand Kazi. Now, during this period in India, historically speaking, people were known not as Vaishnavas so much as Hindus. And this started with the Persians and the Greeks calling those people who lived along the Sindhu River and who lived on the other side of the Sindhu River as being Hindus. Because of the language, they didn't call them Sindhus, they called them Hindus. So it was a geographical explanation or geographical description of a particular population. This later translated when the Muslims started to take control of India in order to define who was the people who had come from outside of India to live in India, the Muslims, and the people who were indigenous to India, they were called the Hindus. So again, it was a geographical description or definition of who the people were. And then gradually, the people themselves started calling themselves Hindus. And it was even defined themselves as such in various religious literatures that were written by different religious groups. However, we will see that in all of the writings of the six Goswamis in Mahaprabhu's lineage, they're never used the word Hindu to define the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they always use Vaishnavas. So this whole situation in which they found what they called Hindu society, that the Hindus did not follow their religious principles freely or execute them freely in the public. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the first one to perform civil disobedience and to begin the process of publicly chanting the holy names in the streets. First, he did it in Srivasangam, in Srivasa's house. That's where they chanted the holy name, at Srivasa's house. And the Chand Kazi became very angry and very upset with the fact that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was publicly chanting the holy name of Krishna and was publicly performing the kirtan in the Chand Kazi's house. He actually came and complained to the Chand Kazi. The Chand Kazi came and complained in Srivasanga, in Srivasa's house. He came and complained to Srivasa that, why are you doing this? And he was very, very upset that the devotees were performing kirtan in Srivasangam and therefore starting to perform it on the streets of the city. He said that no one should perform Sankirtan on the streets of the city. And he's excusing the offense and returning home, but he says that the next time he sees someone performing such Sankirtan, that he shall chastise them by confiscating all their property and converting them to Muslims. So during this period, when the division between Muslim and Hindu was based simply on this geographical definition, then at that time, the conversion to the Muslim faith was accomplished simply by a Muslim sprinkling water on someone who was an indigenous Hindu by birth and geography. And so in this way, the Hindus became Muslims, converted to Muslimism. And the Smarta Brahmin Pandits made it impossible for them to turn back to Hinduism, because they said that the purification in order to become a Hindu again was to drink boiling ghee, die, and take birth as a Hindu. So this was very complicated rules in society at the time, societal principles, religious societies' principles. Also, the Hindus were kept in poverty by certain rules and taxes and certain problems. They had a tax that they put on the Hindus for them to travel to holy places on pilgrimage. They would have to pay certain taxes because there was a Hindu pilgrimage as opposed to the Hajj pilgrimage of the Muslims to the Hajj. So like this, they had so many different problems being Hindus, and sometimes the poorer Hindus, in order to save themselves from complete destitution, would accept the Muslim religion in name only. They weren't really Muslims. They were Hindus who accepted or embraced the Muslim religion simply for the purpose of economic existence. And so like this, there was a very complicated situation of the Hindu-Muslim relationship. And Mahaprabhu wanted to do away with all of this by using the Sankirtan movement to purify the whole atmosphere and develop Krishna consciousness amongst all classes of people, even the Muslims. And so he started performing the Sankirtan movement. And at one point, the Chand Kazi became very angry, and he had his men break the mridungas and cause a great offense to the propagation of the civil disobedience of the Sankirtan movement. And then what happened was, when Mahaprabhu heard that the mridungas were broken and that the devotees were stopped from chanting the holy name of Krishna, from performing the Sankirtan, he became very upset, very upset. And he then called for Lord Nityananda and Advaita and everyone to come and to bring all of the Vaishnavas together, all of the Navadvipa devotees together for a very grand Sankirtan. And he broke the group up into 7 different groups. And he began to organize them to go to the house of the Chand Kazi. The Chand Kazi was a very important person. He was not only the magistrate of Navadvipa, but he was actually the spiritual teacher of Hussein Shah in the teachings of the Quran and the Muslim religion. So he was actually a very powerful and influential Muslim. And when the Kazi became angered with the devotees at Srivasangam for what they did and broke the mridungas, he didn't realize what was going to be the reaction of Mahaprabhu and the reaction of the Vaishnavas against him for doing this. And so what happened is, in his plan to try and convert the devotees to the Muslim religion by forcibly stopping the Sankirtan movement, Mahaprabhu then began a huge public Sankirtan with thousands. It is said that there were thousands of devotees that stretched for miles that came. And he organized them into different groups. He had Advaita Acharya leading one group, Haridas Thakur leading another group, Srivas Pandit leading another group. And each group had 4 mridanga players and 16 kartal players and 1 expert kirtan leader and 1 expert kirtan dancer. And each group was followed by thousands of devotees. And all the devotees were decorated very nicely with tulsi neck beads and tilak, etc. They were very beautifully decorated. And there was conch shells, and there was trumpets, and so many different instruments that were blaring and announcing the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan. And Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sankirtan was revealed in this particular Lila, although they had performed Sankirtan previously in the streets, and although they had performed Sankirtan in many different ways at different times, this was now the complete manifestation of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, and he was going to completely change the Chand Kazi from being an opponent of the Sankirtan movement and get him to embrace the Sankirtan movement. And this is very significant because we need to consider that in our mission, that part of what Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is to convert the leaders to be favorable to the mission of Sankirtan in the public, to be favorable and to support the Sankirtan movement, distributing the holy names in the public. We should understand that this Prem Nam Sankirtan is very significant. Sometimes devotees say to me, well, we could spread Krishna consciousness on the internet, or we could do it with this, like we have the Zoom kirtan, Zoom meetings, et cetera, and this is all wonderful. But the mission of Mahaprabhu is the Sankirtan mission, the Sankirtan movement, the public recitation of the holy name in the streets. And one devotee was telling me how they asked Srila Gurudev one time that we are not chanting Prem Nam, we're not chanting pure Nam, we're not chanting Shuddha Nam, we're chanting Nam Aparad. At best, we may chant a little Nam Abbas, but mostly we're chanting Nam Aparad. So how is our Sankirtan benefiting the people in the streets? And Gurudev told her, and this is similar to what Prabhupada said one time when the devotees asked him in Vrindavan, he was telling them how he had prepared for his preaching mission by living in the Radha Damodar temple and performing bhajan there. And they asked Prabhupada how to prepare, and Prabhupada said, you don't need to prepare, I'm empowering you. And so Srila Gurudev made the same point, saying that when you go out on Harinam Sankirtan by the order, my order, then it is not your sound vibration which is being broadcast on the Harinam Sankirtan. It is my sound vibration. It is my Shuddhanam which is being broadcast because you're doing it under my order. And therefore people are being benefited with the pure name of the sadhu who has given you the order to do the Prem Nam Sankirtan. And I remember how we used to do Sankirtan on the streets of New York. This is how I joined. I heard the devotees doing the Sankirtan on the streets, and I went and joined in the Sankirtan, and then I discussed the Bhagavad Gita with some devotee, and then I moved in the temple that night. And we used to do this. We used to go on Sankirtan with the devotees, and we'd go through the streets, and people would follow us back to the temple, and they'd go into the temple, and they would never come out. They would just join. It was so potent. And why was it potent? Because it was Prabhupada. It was Gurudev. It was the pure name of the pure devotee that was being broadcast and changing the consciousness and the hearts of the people on the streets. That's why this Prem Nam Sankirtan is so powerful, because as Prabhupada said so many times, he said, my only success is that I'm simply giving what I have received in the parampara from the from my spiritual master. And when we simply recite the holy name in Sankirtan in the public to the benefit of everyone, as it is given to us by the pure devotee, by the guru, then we are carrying the sound vibration of the parampara. And by carrying that sound vibration, we are changing the consciousness of the individual simply by carrying out the mission of the pure devotee of the spiritual master. And so you can imagine what this Sankirtan was like. Haridas Thakur, Advaita Acharya, Lord Gadadhar Pandit, Lord Nityananda, everybody was there dancing and chanting, and Srivas Pandit, the whole Panchatattva was dancing and chanting with all the devotees, thousands of pure devotees, chanting and dancing the holy name of the Lord simultaneously. So many devotees that it was miles long group of devotees chanting in the street. And it was so powerful, so potent, that it was transforming the consciousness of everyone that was hearing the transcendental sound vibration. It was transforming the consciousness of everyone that was coming in contact with the devotees. Mahaprabhu was shining, like his body was shining like molten gold, smeared with beautiful sandalwood paste. And he had wonderful, sweet, fragrant malati flowers decorating his hair, and a beautiful flower garland of 5 varieties of flower hanging all the way down to his knees. So he was gorgeously ornamented and decorated. And Lord Nityananda was by his side, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas Pandit. Everyone was there. It was so powerful. And when the Kazi heard this chanting, he heard this tumultuous uproar, he sent his spies to see what was going on. And when the spies went out and saw thousands of devotees stretching for miles, chanting with great vigor and enthusiasm, then they became frightened, and they ran to the Chand Kazi and said, "You better flee for your life, because thousands of Hindu devotees are coming here chanting the holy name." And so the Chand Kazi was concerned, but he didn't flee. He waited, and Lord Caitanya came, and he exchanged some formalities with the Chand Kazi, and he actually called him uncle, because he was Kamsa, his maternal uncle in the Krishna Lila. And so calling Lord Caitanya addressed the Chand Kazi as uncle. He gave him respect. In Vedic society, when you call someone mama, mama means the mother's uncle, the mother's brother. So when you call someone mama, which is a term of endearment, then that's offering respect to that person, and that person is then obliged by etiquette to respond to you favorably. And so addressing him like this, "Oh mama, oh uncle," and exchanging some polite formalities with Chand Kazi, Lord Caitanya then talked with him about cow killing. Go dugda cow gabi tomara mata. You drink cow's milk, therefore the cow is your mother. This is the chapter 17 of the Adi Lila in Caitanya Charitamrita. So Lord Chaitanya's words are very simple here, but they're also very deep. This is where Prabhupada gets his point, where he always says over and over again, the cow is your mother. How can you eat the cow? How can you eat the cow? Lord Chaitanya asked the Kazi why he killed and ate cows, since the cow is the mother of everybody, because the cow unselfishly and indiscriminately gives everyone her own milk. So how can you justify killing and eating such a mother? So there's a very deep statement, and Prabhupada used to use this statement whenever he was talking. I remember when he was talking with that cardinal and discussing with him about the process of meat eating, and the cardinal couldn't understand. Prabhupada said to him, the cow is giving milk, and the cow is like a mother because the mother gives milk to the baby. So do you think that this is a very good idea, that the cow gives you milk and you drink the cow's milk and then you kill and eat the cow? And the cardinal said, yes, this is okay. So we see that eating meat makes the brain dull. In one television comedy, the person used to call the other guy meathead. The meathead means that your brain is dull. You can't understand the deeper understanding of things, the deeper realizations and subtle realizations of things based on spirituality, because you're eating dead bodies. And when you eat dead bodies, it's not possible for you, if you're subsisting on dead bodies, to understand the subtlety of even the astral body, what to speak of the spiritual body. And so therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this was the first question that he asked Chand Kazi. He wants to establish that if you are actually a spiritual master and teacher of spiritual teachings of the Quran to Hussein Shah, then how can you condone the killing and eating of cows when you drink the cow's milk and the cow is your mother? So this was the first thing. He wanted to make this point because the Chand Kazi was considered a spiritual leader in his community, that he wanted to show him this is not the situation. You are not a real spiritual leader, not if you live like this. And then Mahaprabhu quotes in the Go Angayata Loma Lata Sahasra Vatsara Go Vadi Rorava Madhye Pache Nirantara. Cow killers and cow eaters are condemned to rot in a hellish condition of life for as many thousands of years as there are hairs on the body of each cow they eat. There are many mistakes and illusions in the non-Vedic scriptures. And these scriptures, which are compiled by people who are meat eaters, could not realize the real true essence of spiritual knowledge. Thus, they wrote things which were against logic and reason. And so Mahaprabhu wanted to get to the essence of the discussion. You don't understand Sankirtan because you're a meat eater. You are killing cows and you are eating flesh. Therefore, you can't understand the spiritual nature of the Sankirtan movement. And this is also the potency of the Sankirtan movement. It is so potent, it is so powerful that it can purify the consciousness even of the meat eaters. I remember I was a very big meat eater before I became a devotee. It was very difficult for me when I first joined. I used to eat 3 bowls of dal and 20 chapatis for lunch because I couldn't get enough food to fill the desire of my stomach for eating. So this meat eating is very detrimental. It makes your brain dull. It makes your consciousness dull. It makes it impossible for you to actually understand the truth of spiritual life, which is very subtly nuanced. And so Mahaprabhu convinces the Chand Kazi that according to the Quran, there is no mention anywhere of an authorization for killing the cow. And even though the Chand Kazi argued with him, oh, but in the Vedas you have this go made a sacrifice, Mahaprabhu pointed out to him that that was only an elderly cow, which after the cow was slaughtered, then the cow was brought back to life. So it was a process of testing the power of the Brahminical mantras for bringing the cow back to life. And so it had nothing to do with eating cow flesh or enjoying cow flesh. It was actually an experiment for the potency of the recitation of the sacred Sanskrit mantras from the Vedas. So he convinces him that it is not part of the Vedic literature to kill and eat cows. It is not part of the Vedic literature. I'm on a class right now. I can't talk with you. I'm on a class right now. I'm lecturing to 50 people. I can't talk to you now, please. Thank you. I'm sorry. Somebody came into the room to talk with me on the phone.
No problem, right?
So he proves to him that in the Vedic literature, there is no evidence of killing and eating cows.
So in the Vedic literature or in the Quran?
In both.
Both.
First, he proves to him that there is no evidence of killing and eating cows. There's killing cows only for the purpose of performing the experiment of proving that the mantras that the Brahmins are chanting are perfect. And that old cow is given a new body and brought back to life in a new, younger, healthy body. So it has nothing to do with killing and eating flesh. What is going on is in the Vedic literature has nothing to do with killing and eating flesh. So he proves that to him, and then he proves that in the Quran there is no authorization for killing and eating the cow. So he concluded that in both scriptures it is not there. And then the Chand Kazi agreed that he would become a devotee and he would refrain from meat eating and the killing of any creature. Even during the chaotic Hindu-Muslim riots, the descendants of the Chand Kazi kept intact the promise given by their ancestor and never had any conflict with the devotees, the Hindu people in India. So Lord Caitanya, changing the subject, asked the Kazi why he had stopped the Sankirtan movement at Srivas Angam and why he did not try to stop the Sankirtan movement today. So then the Kazi told the story about how after he did what he did at Srivas Angam, that night he had a dream of a ferocious, fearful being with the body of a man and the head of a lion, who possessed very frightful teeth and elongated nails, and who had threatened him with death if he ever again impeded the Sankirtan movement. He said, that is why today, when you came with the Sankirtan devotees, I didn't do anything to stop it, because look, he scratched my chest. And then he opens up his kurta and he shows Mahaprabhu his chest, and he's got these scars on his chest from Lord Nrsingadev scarring his chest with his nails. So he had an actual three-dimensional dream. So the Chand Kazi told Mahaprabhu with tears in his eyes that from this day forward, he vowed that he would never do anything, neither him nor anyone in his dynasty would ever inhibit or obstruct the Sankirtan movement for any reason. And any descendant who ever did so, that descendant would be rejected from his family and disinherited. Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rose up and started reciting Hari, 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 Hari. And he led a jubilant and victorious Sankirtan party back to Sridham Mayapur. And as he was returning, he stopped at the house of his dear devotee, Sridhar, who was the one who used to give him the banana leaves for eating. So later on, the Chand Kazi left his body. The samadhi was placed there. There's a huge champak tree that comes there, and the champak tree, although it's hollow and empty inside, it still produces leaves and flowers, very fragrant flowers. And it's an enormous tree that goes in every direction. It comes out of the Chand Kazi's samadhi. The samadhi is in Simanta. And this champak tree is entwined around the towering about the samadhi of the Muslim ruler Chand Kazi, who was the magistrate of Navadvipa. And so in this way, Mahaprabhu converts the Chand Kazi to the Vedic culture, to the Vedic religion, to the Sankirtan religion, the Sankirtan movement, the mission of Prem Nam Sankirtan, and gets his blessing for Prem Nam Sankirtan to be distributed freely, and allows the Hindus or the Vaishnavas at the time to freely distribute the mission of Mahaprabhu, the Prem Nam Sankirtan, everywhere. And all of his descendants to this day continue to do that. They continue to support the Prem Nam Sankirtan movement and the preaching of Mahaprabhu. And so this is a very special Lila, because it shows this was Mahaprabhu's coming out party of the civil disobedience of the chanting of the holy name. This is our process. The chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in the streets is the civil disobedience. We should not be afraid or ashamed or worried to go out into the streets during this pandemic or whatever you want to call it, and distribute the chanting of the holy name everywhere to everyone. It will purify the atmosphere. It will purify everybody. It'll purify the different layers of the ether in which all of the lies that are done, that are made every day by people are lying about so many things in laws and politics, and so many liars. All the politicians are liars. No matter what side of the aisle they're on, they're all lying. They're all cheating. The lawyers are lying. Everybody is lying. And all this lying and cheating is going up into the ether, up into the atmosphere. And when it rains, it brings down these sinful lies into the atmosphere and pollutes the atmosphere and creates disease. And we can counteract that by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The chanting in the streets purifies the atmosphere. Even if the statement, Prabhupada once said, just an ordinary statement, an ordinary words spoken by people can travel around the world 7 times. Prabhupada said, how much greater the Sankirtan movement, how much more powerful the mission of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the chanting of the holy name. It will go around the world so many times and purify the whole atmosphere and give a purification of all the levels of material elements and the consciousness of the people, so that the mission of Mahaprabhu will be broadcast everywhere in greater and greater circles, so as to purify the atmosphere of the entire world and the universe. If the chanting of Advaita Acharya is so powerful it can shake the throne of Narayan in Vaikuntha, if the devotees chant with great sincerity and devotion the pure name, the Prem Nam Sankirtan that Mahaprabhu has given us in this lineage, how powerful it can be, how pure it can be, how great it can be, how great the effect it can have on the world, on the consciousness of the people, on the atmosphere. So this is, Mahaprabhu began the Sankirtan movement in great earnest with this particular Lila, in which he performed the civil disobedience against the Chand Kazi. And we should take that action of Mahaprabhu, and we should also be ready and willing to accept the responsibility to go out and speak the chanting of the holy name to the public and recite the holy name in Sankirtan in the public for the benefit of everyone. Okay, thank you very much.
Woo! Howdy ball. I told everybody they'd have to hold on to that, put the seatbelts on. I don't think the seatbelt worked, Maharaj. I'm flying through the windscreen. It's fantastic. It was absolutely beautiful. I was chuckling at the rain analogy, because I was thinking that means if all the lies that come down in the raindrops that have gone up in the ether come down, that means that England must be have extra problems because it's raining here all the time. But seriously speaking, though, every Saturday we're going out, and what you said earlier in your presentation was brilliant, because you said we're not chanting our vibration, we're chanting Gurudev's vibration. Actually, I feel like we're chanting Mahaprabhu's and Nityananda's vibration. It feels like that because the effect we feel after we've done Sankirtan just doesn't seem to, it's a completely mystical experience.
Yeah.
It's just on a total spiritual high.
Well,
it's unbelievable.
It is Mahaprabhu's vibration. Gurudev said it was, you're going out under the order of your guru, it's my vibration. But what is Prabhupada saying? That because the guru is only giving you what's in the line, so the line is coming from Mahaprabhu. So they're only giving Mahaprabhu. Gurudev, Prabhupada are giving us Mahaprabhu, and they're giving the Prem Nam Sankirtan that Mahaprabhu brought with him to this Kali Yuga. And so therefore, yes, we're actually giving Mahaprabhu's holy name, but this empowerment to do this comes by the order of Guru and Sadhu.
Mahaprabhu through Guru. Fantastic. We have time for some questions. Any questions for Maharaj? If you're shy, put the question through me. If you're not, just why don't you press reactions, press a heart, and then I can pick you and you can ask your question. Yeah. Rudara, you have a question?
Not yet. Just how can I?
I can always rely on you for a question, Bradar. Come on.
Yeah, well, he said everything necessary. So, yeah, I suppose, how can I get from here to London to participate in the Nam Sankirtan on Saturdays?
Bradar, you'd love it. We're wheeling people around in wheelchairs.
We drive.
We drive. Yeah, it's got.
Yeah, you drive, and if you're knackered, I'll push you around in a wheelchair.
Yeah, can you send me a dispensation letter for the coppers or what? How does that work?
No, the police are fine. They love us. They
So-
just
So if
we
the-
were stopped. We were stopped last week, and they just said just keep 2 meters apart, no problem.
okay.
There's absolutely no problem with the police. They love us, and we love them.
Let's go Saturday.
Okay.
So we'll see you on Saturday, Badar.
You might do, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Cool.
you might do.
Just get there early, get your parking spot. It's a bit of a car meter drama, but if you can navigate that, you'll have a
Where do you start from?
Portobello Road under this. You know, you're on the WhatsApp group, the London Ecstatic Sankirtan group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on there, we're at the same place. It's the flyover, W10 Portobello Road.
In Gainesville
It's
one
amazing.
time, Uma Didi went out with us and we put her in a wheelchair and we wheelchaired her all around Gainesville. And when I go out, I have neuropathy, so I can only walk so far before, my legs start feeling uncomfortable. So one devotee would carry a folding chair. And so when I would get to the corner, we'd walk a block, I'd walk 1 or 2 blocks, and then they'd open the folding chair and I'd sit there while they all did kirtan in a circle. And so in this way, we go on Sankirtan, even though we're disabled.
And if all else fails, Badar, my shoulders, I'll put you on my shoulders.
Okay.
Yeah, I promise.
I don't doubt that. I mean, but I'm a little bit heavier than I was previously. So
It's amazing, Badar. You'll love it. Jagdam comes out. I mean, she's not in the best of health. Nami Maharaj is out there like Peter Pan. He's 77. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really great. Any questions for Bruce and Dudis? Maharaj, can you say something about one thing that I didn't hear you say about the magic of Sankirtan and the ingredients of Sankirtans? I feel like it's incredible. Well, it was implicit in your cow killing explanation, but there's an incredible amount of compassion that I feel flows through Sankirtan. Can you say something about that?
Yes, well, to want to go out and do Sankirtan and give people this mercy is compassion. And expressing compassion, these are the positive emotional activities of the Vaishnavas. We know the negative: lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion. But the positive is love, compassion, forgiveness, humility, and service. We're serving public. We're serving all the living entities by going out with love and compassion to give this chanting. Srila Prabhupada was once asked that there was this garden in front of the temple in Los Angeles with the grass. And so they asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, every day when we're getting ready to go out on Sankirtan, everybody stands out there around the garden and chants. And then we all get in the bus and we go out on Sankirtan, and then we come back and we chant again when we come back. So what's going to happen to all those blades of grass? What's going to happen to them hearing that chanting every day? And Prabhupada said, they will skip all the other births and go directly into human birth. So just think of the power of the compassion of that activity. When you're in the grass is the next, you go from fish to plants. Then from plants, you go to insects. And then from insects, you go to birds. And then from birds, you go to animals. And then you come to human beings. So you skip all the plant births, all the tree births, all the insect births, all of the bird births, all the animal births, millions of births you skip and you go right to human being. How much compassion is that? How much love is that for the jiva souls? So much love, so much compassion that we're showing for the jiva souls by giving ourselves, the energy of ourselves, to go out on Sankirtan for hours every day. And this is just an extraordinary thing that we're so fortunate that we're able to go out on Sankirtan, that we have the opportunity to go out on Sankirtan and to chant the holy names in the streets to the public, because this mercy that we give to people, this mercy that we give them, is a special benediction that comes only in this particular Kali Yuga, that we're giving them Prem Nam Sankirtan. So we have to think, Prabhupada always talked about making other people fortunate, making other people fortunate. So therefore, we should try to make everyone fortunate. And how do we do that? We can only make them, the best way to make them fortunate, the easiest way to make them fortunate, is by this Harinam Sankirtan movement and book distribution. Prabhupada used to talk about, if they just look at the book, just looking at it, they don't say anything, but they look at it. By seeing that book, they make advancement. He said, if they hold a book, if they say something nice about the book and they hold the book in their hands, more advancement. If they take the book and give you a donation, more advancement. By keeping the book in their house, it broadcasts transcendental rays in their home. So like this, the statements about the power of the book distribution and the power of the Sankirtan movement are replete throughout the Vedic literature. And we have to actually have a desire. This is one of the positive spiritual emotions of love, that we have compassion to offer the service with humility of sacrificing our bodies and our time and our energy to go out on the street and chant the holy names and benefit all the living entities. This is true compassion, true love.
So, Maharaj, Donald Pranams, I also have a question that is similar to this question. I was just about to ask what happens to animals, birds, and all kind of trees, and you said that. But what kind of human form they take? In ignorance, in passion, in goodness, or they can become devotee in the next life, or it should take some time?
I don't know. I didn't ask these details. No one asked Prabhupada the details of that, because we were not so spiritually developed to ask such kind of questions during the time of Prabhupada. I do know from my study of the Vedic literature that those who take human birth from the monkey species take birth in the mode of ignorance. Those who take human births from the big cat species, tigers and lions, they take birth in the mode of passion. And those who take human births from the cows take birth in the human species in the mode of goodness. So in this way, we understand from those three kinds of animals what happens. Now, how a blade of grass goes immediately into human birth, because the blade of grass, the consciousness is very dull. So there's some, when the spirit soul, which is encased in an astral body, is moving from one physical body to the next, there is a period of time called the transition, in which they are prepared for the next body. For instance, we asked Srila Prabhupada one time, how is it that a human being will take birth as a pig and eat stool? A human would never eat stool. How could he become So Prabhupada explained, he said there's a transition that the agents of Yamaraj take you to a place where you're force-fed the most obnoxious foods in the universe. Not food, it's obnoxious tasting things, which make you vomit and retch and heave again, repeatedly and
So
repeatedly.
to train your consciousness to your next life.
Right. So by doing that, and then eventually they come and they give you stool, but the stool tastes better than the other things.
Yes.
So your subtle body becomes acclimated to eating the stool because it rejects the more obnoxious flavors. And so then you're ready to take birth. Your subtle body can go into the body of a pig. So there's some transition that takes place for a blade of grass to go to a human being. There is a transition in which devas, demigods, will condition the subtle body to accept the ability of being a human being by the merit of hearing the Sankirtan movement. And so they will prepare the subtle body to inhabit a human body directly from a plant body. There is some transition that has to take place for that to happen.
Okay.
So there's some acclimation that happens in the transition.
You have to get used to.
Yes. I think Budara has a question about that.
Yes, Maharaj. You know, bhakti, we understand that coming in touch with bhakti creates what we now all understand as agyata sukriti, or unknown sukriti, or credit. Wouldn't the logic of what Prabhupada said suggest that at least that those living entities who were embodied as as grass and would have a chance for human birth, wouldn't they then have an opportunity to carry on the process of chanting? It's not just a kind of karmic promotion. It's an opportunity to kind of carry on, to build on that experience, right? Or
Yeah,
what?
no, I would agree with that. That would be the logical.
I don't know if it's true.
No, that would be the logical observation that agyata sukriti would accumulate, or there would be an opportunity in that human birth to get more agyata sukriti or more sukriti, by which one could then evolve into the practice of devotional service as a devotee in Krishna consciousness.
Well, Maharaj, I was sorry.
No. So where you take births, how you take births, all of that will have to be organized by the devas in the transition period between bodies.
I did a calculation, Maharaj. Someone told me that if you chant out loud instead of silently, it's 100 times more powerful. If you chant with devotees out loud, it's 100 times more powerful again. If you chant on the street with devotees in public, it's 100 times again. So I converted that into what's that the equivalent of in terms of chanting 16 rounds a day. Budara's laughing. Yeah. It's the equivalent of 314 years of chanting 16 rounds a day on your own. So Sankirtan is like a massive return on time invested. So if you do 4 rounds, like the other day we did 5 miles, 2 hours. If you do 4 rounds, I'm sure we did more. If you do 4 rounds of Nama Sankirtan, you've done 314 years of chanting.
Well,
which, by the way, shouldn't excuse you from your daily bhajan, but it's a damn good boost.
No, it's very interesting because in a lot of the Gaudiya Mats, I've heard lectures where they say it's even more important to go out on Harinam than it is to do your japa. Yeah. They give an emphasis to that Harinam Sankirtan.
I think particularly, I mean, I'm for myself as a neophyte devotee, I think particularly because I think when I'm doing bhajan, as you say, I'm probably doing mostly Nama Parad, but I think when I'm doing Sankirtan, because of the mercy, I think I'm doing something else. So I think it's really helping me.
Yeah, because you're giving people a mercy, your compassion and love of the of the chanting of the holy name. It can change. I mean, I remember the first time I saw the devotees chanting on the street, and I was completely confused. I thought, why are these people standing in the street, dressed in orange sheets, singing a song from a Broadway play? Because it was in the Hair, it was in the play by Hair, you know. I said, what is this about? What is the matter with these people? And I was so deeply in the mode of ignorance that when I started to walk by them, because they were chanting right at the gate of the college, so I had to walk by them in order to get through the college to the other side. And the fragrance of goodness, of transcendence, was repugnant to me because I was so deeply in the mode of ignorance. And they had this one devotee, I won't forget, Rohini Kumar, he had this huge conch shell. And he took the conch shell and he just stuck it in my stomach and said, can you give a donation? And I had 10 cents left over, or 15 cents left over from buying a candy bar at the candy store on the corner. And I dropped it in the conch. And that was my first exchange. And then a couple of years later, when I saw the devotees in the square, you know, after I had been chanting every morning, you know, because George and John had talked about the chanting. And so we started playing the Hair album, and every morning we would sing Hare Krishna for an hour. You know, we would play it over and over again, and we'd sing it because they said to sing it would transform the world. So we were chanting every day. And then by that time, when I met the devotees, then I was ready, and I immediately moved into the temple. So it's very powerful. Each level of experience and interaction with the devotees and hearing the chanting has an effect. I've met so many people who say, yeah, I saw you chanting on the streets years ago, or
Yeah.
Maharaj,
We
I
have
want
no
to
idea.
make.
We have no idea what
oh,
impact
sorry.
we're making. Actually, most of the time, we have no idea.
I-
Mukunda, did you have a question? He put up a heart. Mukunda, was that just to show your love and appreciation, or did you have a question? No, I don't think so. Any other questions?
I would like to share, not a question, but share some experience that I had.
please.
And it was, I think, 2 weeks, no, 1 month before, because it was before the lockdown, before Christmas. And we were chanting in the streets, and we stopped at a place with the devotees. And I was chanting in that moment, and I started chanting Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga. I was very absorbed in that. And then I remember that 2 girls came from across the streets running. One of them was running, and the other girl was just like holding her, and she was like, yes, we're going there, we're going there. And so they came like in the center of Sankirtan. We was 7, 8 devotees, 10 devotees maximum. And this girl was like just she seems in ecstasy. She was feeling very good, and she was like moving, and the friend could not understand why she was so excited about it, because she said, what are you doing? Come back, come back. But the other friend was like having a great moment. And then something happened that I never saw something like that. And Janardhan Prabhu, you know Janardhan Prabhu, and he was playing the harmonium, and we were not dancing, we were more chanting. And then this girl looked at us while she was almost jumping, and she said, she did something like that, like, you should dance also. So this girl, who was not a devotee or neither know anything, looked at us like, you should dance, why are you not dancing at this? She didn't say anything, but she did this moment with the hand, and I was like, what? I never saw something like that. And it was very beautiful. She was so much involved. This is beautiful experience I had.
That's
Very
beautiful.
nice.
That's I want
Very
that
nice.
experience this Saturday. Can you pray that we have that experience this Saturday? That's so beautiful. It's amazing when the public get involved. Absolutely amazing. I saw a
Yes.
video actually where the public got involved and there was a policewoman on a madunga. It was just like far out.
Yes. Also, the next 10 minutes, two girls start following us. Two other different girls. They follow us for almost half an hour. They follow us, and then one of them said, "Can I play the cartas?" And she was very interested, and she started playing. And I teach her how to play, and she was playing. And she was also a dancer, and she started moving her hands and remind me just a few movements that Gurudev was making, because Gurudev moves a lot of time. He moved hands while he was speaking, and she was dancing and enjoying. And almost half an hour, 40 minutes, I think. So they stayed with us, and they also took a picture with us.
Prabhu, you have one advantage over us.
They only
It's called Italy.
I
We're
don't know
English
what they
and dampened, rainy and reserved, so it's more of a miracle if it happens here.
I don't know. I'm so lucky with this birth. Also, one lecture Bhakti Srushidhar Maharaj gave said he's born at this. He's fortunate. But I'm only fortunate because I'm not done something truly good. I'm starting also, even though I am 22.
Beautiful, beautiful. Any other questions or sharing? Anything anyone wants to say before I make a few announcements and say goodnight?
I just want to say thank you to everyone for tolerating me and listening to the lecture. I hope I was able to do something that was satisfying to everyone.
Raji, you did. You always do. It's beautiful. I love hearing you speak. It's like taking off in a space rocket of bhakti.
Yeah, it was great. It was very, very inspiring, and also
it's beautiful. It's
very
beautiful.
informative. I love the history lesson that you weaved in there as well. Creating an understanding of the culture of the time and gives some context, and it deepens our relation with it. It's quite nice. Thank you.
Maharaj, right at the beginning of your presentation, I didn't want to interrupt you and ask you because it would ruin your flow, but it's a perfect ask now. You mentioned that he was a certain type of Muslim. I can't remember the term you used. What was that?
Yeah, they're the Pathan Muslims. Yeah. Pathan Muslims.
What's that word?
I think they're the Turks, if I recall.
What was the word, Maharaj?
Pathan. Pathana.
Okay.
I think that they were the Turks.
Oh, Pathan.
No, P is in Peter, A is in Apple, T is in Thomas, H is in Harry, A is in Apple, N is in Nancy, A is in Apple. Pathan.
Pathan. Okay.
Yeah, the Aurangzeb, Akbar, and those Muslims came from Persia and Afghanistan. But the Pathan Muslims, I think, came from Turkey. Yeah, Turkish.
I'm just looking it up actually because Turkey was the Seljuk. They're Seljuks normally in Turkey.
Yes.
I'm just looking up. I've never heard of that word Pathan. I'm just Googling it now. Pathan Muslims speak Pashto, Pushtu, Pashtan, Pushtuns, Pakhtuns.
So that's Pakistan.
Yeah. What is the Pathan?
And Afghanistan.
Yeah, Afghans.
Yeah.
So then they're Afghanis. They're not
Afghans, yeah.
Afghanis.
Okay, a few quick announcements, if I may. I put it in chat. You've got the website, www.mercygracelila.com, for all the course material, both historic and in the future. We've got our class on Thursday at 5:30. That'll be announcing who's speaking on what subject very shortly. The WhatsApp group for the London Ecstatic Sankirtan, if anybody wants to join in or just be informed of what we're doing, that's on the WhatsApp. You can add that. You can add yourself to the group. And I've also put this WhatsApp group. So if you want to invite anyone else, just send them the link and they can link into this group. So thank you for your Shravan, because your Shravan is also savor to Maharaj's Kirtan. Without the Shravan, we couldn't all turn up and serve, and it's beautiful. Makes my day, to be honest. And looking forward to seeing you on Thursday for our second installment of the week. Thank you once again, Maharaj. Thank you for your questions and your participation. And God bless. I was going to say, God bless America. No, I meant, and God.
They need it.
And have a beautiful evening. Take care.
Thank you for making this possible, Jasoda. I appreciate it.
No problem. We love it.
Haribol.
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 Haribol, Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.